I found the photo by accident. It was tucked inside a Christmas card that arrived 3 days late. One of those generic drugstore cards with silver bells and a pre-printed season's greetings. No personal message, just 2 signatures, Michael and Sarah, my son and daughter. The card felt thin, hollow, like it cost less than the stamp. But it was the photo that fell out when I opened it that stopped my heart. A family gathering. My entire family gathered around a massive Christmas tree I'd never seen, in a living room I didn't recognize. My son Michael, his wife Jennifer, their 3 kids. My daughter Sarah, her husband Tom, their twin boys. Even my sister Claire was there, Claire, who told me she was spending Christmas alone this year because of her hip surgery. They were all smiling, wearing matching red sweaters, holding champagne glasses. And I wasn't in it. I stood in my kitchen, still wearing the same bathrobe I'd had on for 2 days, staring at proof that my family had celebrated Christmas without me. Not because they forgot. Not because of a miscommunication, but because they chose to. They planned it, coordinated it, bought matching sweaters, took a professional photo, and then they sent it to me. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 2 weeks later, when my daughter called asking for my social security number, and I realized exactly why they cut me out. Let me take you back 6 months before that photo destroyed me. I was 52 years old, recently retired from 30 years as an elementary school librarian, living in the same 3-bedroom house in Connecticut where I'd raised my kids. My husband Robert had died 4 years earlier from pancreatic cancer. Sudden, brutal, gone in 7 months. The life insurance and his pension left me comfortable. Not wealthy, but stable. I could pay my bills, travel a little, maybe spoil my grandkids. I thought I'd done everything right as a mother. I put my kids through college without loans. I was at every soccer game, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. When Michael's startup failed and he lost his apartment, I let him move back home for 18 months. When Sarah got pregnant with the twins and needed help, I took unpaid leave to be her full-time support for 3 months. I wasn't a perfect mother, but I was present. I was involved. I loved them fiercely. After Robert died, the kids checked in regularly at first. Weekly calls, monthly visits. But gradually, naturally, the calls became bi-weekly, then monthly, then just whenever something came up. I understood. They had lives. Careers, children. I didn't want to be the clingy widow mother who demanded attention. So I adjusted. I joined a book club, started volunteering at the animal shelter, made peace with a quieter life. The first Real crack appeared last Thanksgiving. I'd hosted Thanksgiving every year since Michael was born. 29 consecutive years of turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie in my dining room. It was tradition. It was sacred. But 3 days before Thanksgiving, Sarah called and said they were doing something low-key this year. Jennifer's parents were hosting. Just immediate family. She said it so casually, so matter-of-factly, like it wasn't erasing 3 decades of tradition. I spent Thanksgiving alone watching Hallmark movies and eating rotisserie chicken. I told myself it was fine. Things change. Traditions evolve. But when Christmas came and my phone stayed silent, no invitation, no video call with the grandkids, nothing, I started to feel it. That hollow, creeping sensation that something fundamental had shifted. That I'd somehow become optional. Still, I sent gifts. Expensive gifts. A new bike for each grandchild. A designer purse for Jennifer. Tools for Michael. A KitchenAid mixer for Sarah. I spent over $2,000. I got thank you texts, generic ones. Thanks for the gift. No calls. No photos of the kids enjoying their presents. Then came that card with the photo. I must have stared at it for an hour, searching for an explanation that would make it hurt less. Maybe it was a last-minute thing. Maybe they assumed I was busy. Maybe Claire brought them all together spontaneously. But the matching sweaters told a different story. The professional photographer. The carefully arranged poses. This was planned weeks in advance. I'd been deliberately excluded from my own family's Christmas. I did what any devastated mother would do. I called Michael first. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. I could hear his kids screaming in the background. I asked him about Christmas, trying to sound casual, not accusatory. He said it was good, kept it vague, then pivoted to asking if I'd received their card. I told him I had. I told him I saw the photo. There was a long pause. Then he said they'd wanted to keep it small this year. Just the immediate families. He made it sound reasonable, rational. Like I was an immediate family. I asked why no one told me. Why no one called. He sighed, actually sighed, and said he'd talked to Sarah about inviting me, but they thought I'd be more comfortable staying home. They didn't want me to feel obligated to travel. They were protecting me. I hung up before I started crying. 2 days later, Sarah called. Not to apologize. Not to explain. To ask if I'd watched the video she sent. I hadn't received any video. She resented it. It was 18 minutes long. The entire Christmas celebration. Michael's family arriving. Sarah's twins opening presents. Everyone laughing, eating, singing carols. My sister Claire doing her signature terrible rendition of Jingle Bells. They documented the whole thing. And watching it felt like being a ghost haunting my own family's life. But the real betrayal? The real knife in my chest. That came at the 11-minute mark, when Jennifer stood up with a champagne glass and made a toast. She thanked everyone for coming. She talked about how wonderful it was to start new traditions now that the kids were getting older. She said she was grateful they could all be together without outside stress or obligations. The camera panned to Sarah, who nodded and smiled. Outside stress. Obligations. That's what I'd become to them. An obligation. A burden. Something to manage and avoid. I didn't call either of them back. I didn't respond to their texts. I shut down. For 2 weeks, I barely left my bedroom. I stopped answering the phone. I let the mail pile up. I kept replaying the last few years, searching for the moment I became disposable. Was it after Robert died? Was I too depressing to be around? Did I complain too much about being lonely? Or was it something simpler? Did they just stop caring once I wasn't useful anymore? Then, on January 9th, Sarah called again. And everything finally made sense. She started with small talk. How were my holidays? Had I been out? Was I feeling okay? Her voice had that careful, measured tone people use when they want something. Then she got to it. She needed my social security number. For financial planning. She and Michael had been talking to an estate lawyer about getting things organized for the future. They wanted to set up trusts for the grandkids. Make sure everything was in order. Just paperwork. Just planning ahead. I asked why they needed my social security number for their financial planning. She hesitated. Then she said they were exploring options for Medicaid planning. Pre-planning. So that if something happened to me down the road, my assets would be protected. Medicaid planning. I was 52 years old. Healthy. Active. Fully capable of managing my own finances. And my children were already planning how to protect my money, their inheritance, from future medical costs. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Then I did something I should have done months earlier. I called my financial advisor. What he told me made my blood run cold. Michael had called him 6 weeks earlier. Asked detailed questions about my accounts, my pension, Robert's life insurance payout. He'd claimed I'd asked him to help me organize my finances because I was feeling overwhelmed. My advisor had refused to give him any information without my written consent. But Michael had tried. He'd actively tried to access my financial information without telling me. I pulled my credit report. There were 2 hard inquiries I hadn't authorized. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name in November. Another attempt in December. Both declined because I had a credit freeze Robert and I had set up years earlier. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper. My children weren't just excluding me. They were positioning themselves to take control of my life. I hired a lawyer the next day. Not to sue my kids, I wasn't there yet, but to protect myself. To understand what they might be planning. To figure out how this had happened. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, reviewed everything and delivered her assessment with brutal honesty. My children likely believed they were entitled to my assets and were taking steps to secure them. The Medicaid planning, the financial inquiries, the credit card attempts, These were red flags of financial elder abuse, even if they didn't see it that way. Patricia said this happened more often than people realized. Adult children who convinced themselves they were helping aging parents while actually positioning themselves to control or inherit wealth. Sometimes it started with good intentions. Sometimes it was pure greed. Either way, it destroyed families. She recommended I have a serious conversation with both of them. Set clear boundaries. Make it explicitly clear that I was competent, aware, and not interested in their help. I called a family meeting. Both of them showed up looking annoyed, like I was inconveniencing them. We sat in my living room, the same living room where I'd raised them, bandaged their scraped knees, helped with homework, celebrated birthdays. I told them I knew what they'd tried to do. The financial inquiries, the credit card attempts, the Medicaid planning for a woman who didn't need it. Michael tried to interrupt, tried to explain it away as just being prepared. Sarah said they were trying to protect me from future exploitation. I asked them point blank, when did I become someone who needed protection for myself? Neither of them had an answer. Then I told them the truth they didn't want to hear, that I was healthy, capable, and fully in control of my finances, that I didn't need their help, that I wouldn't be giving them my social security number, power of attorney, or access to my accounts. That if they wanted a relationship with me, it would be on terms of mutual respect, not financial opportunism. Sarah started crying. She said I was being paranoid, that they loved me, that they were just trying to help. Michael got angry. He said I was being ungrateful, that they'd sacrificed time and energy trying to manage things for me, that I should appreciate what they were trying to do. Appreciate. I told them to leave. They did. And I haven't spoken to either of them since. 3 months have passed now. My sister Claire called to apologize. She said she didn't know they'd excluded me until she arrived at Sarah's house that Christmas. She felt terrible. She's the only family member who still talks to me. The grandkids' birthdays have come and gone. I sent cards but no gifts. No calls came. I changed my will last month. Everything goes to charities now. The Library Foundation, the Animal Shelter, a scholarship fund in Robert's name. My children will inherit nothing. Patricia says they might contest it. They might claim I was coerced or incompetent. But I've documented everything. I've had cognitive assessments. I've created a paper trail that proves I'm sound, aware, and deliberate. Because here's what I've learned. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who see you as nothing more than a bank account waiting to be claimed. Sometimes your children grow into strangers who remember your money, but forget your humanity. Sometimes the cruelest betrayal isn't violence or infidelity. It's being reduced to a number on a balance sheet. I don't know if my kids will ever understand what they've done. Maybe they'll wake up one day and feel the weight of what they destroyed. Maybe they won't. But I know this. I'm done being optional. I'm done being an obligation. I'm done waiting for phone calls that never come and apologies that don't matter. I'm 52 years old. I have decades left. And I'm going to spend them with people who choose me, not my social security number. If you've felt invisible in your own family, if you've wondered when you stopped mattering, if you've ever been treated like a burden instead of a person, you're not alone. And you're not crazy. Sometimes the hardest thing is accepting that the people you raised don't see you anymore. But your worth isn't measured by their blindness. You still matter. You still deserve love. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. I found the photo by accident, but I found myself on purpose. If this story spoke to your heart, don't let it fade. Subscribe to The Silent Parents, where every emotion finds a home.